Hi, I'm Larry Carlson. We at Phoenix have always avoided naming specific competitors or their equipment in our advertisements and videos. Unfortunately, Dri-Eaz in their videos promoting their new dehumidifier, the 7000 XLI, has decided to target the Phoenix R200 with comparison claims of design and performance. In order to provide reliable, accurate information regarding specifications, design, and performance, Phoenix created this response. We aim to set you straight on the inaccuracies and made-up stuff in the Dri-Eaz videos.
Hi, I'm John Ormsby, President of Dri-Eaz and Forester Products. And today what we're going to talk about is an exciting new product, the Dri-Eaz LGR 7000 XLI.
The introductions of both videos are a collection of general statements how the 7000 is the greatest dehumidifier ever made. Then they make some specific claims.
We're really talking about numbers. First of all, if you look at AHAM specifications, this product is 130 pints tested. Again, right there, unmatched in the marketplace.
In their second video, the performance claims continue.
Testing of the 7000 XLI and competitive product like the Phoenix R200 show that we beat the competition in every environmental test condition. In fact, the 7000 XLI in a controlled environmental test shows that we beat the R200 by Phoenix by 10 pints at AHAM and 25 pints at saturation.
These claims surprised us because we bought a 7000 and our test results didn't match Dri-Eaz's claims. Phoenix has two state-of-the-art environmental test chambers. These chambers use NIST-calibrated sensors and are a satellite laboratory used by ETL for certified testing. So, the accuracy of our test results is beyond question. We first tested serial number 101611L. At AHAM conditions, that unit only removed 122.5 pints. That's 7.5 pints short of their 130 pint claim. We thought maybe we'd gotten a bad unit, so we bought another and tested it. Serial number 130712A. At AHAM conditions, that unit removed 125.7 pints. That was closer to their 130 pint claim. Finally, we got a third unit and tested it, serial number 179012B. At AHAM conditions, that unit removed 124 pints. So out of 3 tries, we couldn't find a 7000 that did 130 pints at AHAM. So far we've tested 6 7000s and still haven't hit 130 pints. Incidentally, the R200 we tested at the same time removed 126 pints at AHAM. That's a pint more than we claim.
If you look at LGR performance, 80/20 for example, we're at least 40% better than the next best competitor.
More importantly, in low-grain conditions, the 7000 XLI produces 40% more water removal than the R200 by Phoenix.
80 and 20, 30 grains, a 35-degree dew point. Most restorers rarely reach 80 and 20, or when they do, it's about time to pack up the equipment. Dri-Eaz seems to be obsessed with 80 and 20. Perhaps it's because one of the rare conditions where the 7000 actually removes more water than the R200, but not by anywhere near 40%. Maybe they believe that people will assume that if it works better at 80 and 20, then it must work better in all the conditions on the way, but it doesn't. 75 and 25, the R200 wins. 80 and 25, the R200 wins. In fact, in average dry downs, the R200 removes 12 to 23% more water, and that results in faster drying, up to 12 to 18 hours faster. The R200 also has bypass for more water removal in temperatures above 90 degrees, all the way up to 110.
Well, for one, when you look at how the R200 was designed, you have the cool air from the evaporator actually passing over the compressor, which actually warms it at a critical time, inhibiting its performance. When you look at our patent-pending advanced crossflow technology, we do not mix the air like that whatsoever.
That all sounds good, but the reality is that our 200 Max, 200 HT, and 270 HTX all have the compressor and the condenser airflow. So good luck with the patent. On the R200, there wasn't any performance impact, or we wouldn't have done it. Call that made-up stuff number one.
First of all, the door itself, when you close it, and then remove the cord here, when you actually close it, what you'll find are significant gaps all the way around the door, which actually what that means is that the air is actually moving around the door and down into the filter. What you'll also find is that the filter doesn't exactly snug up against the sides of the housing.
Okay, some air can go around the door and down into the filter. This is not a problem. So, made up stuff number two. Did you notice that you can duct air into an R200? Can't do that with a 7000. Now, let's talk about the filter. Now, the sides of the housing are contoured so the filter will always fit tightly. As you can see, there is no air leakage around the filter. There is a big difference between the HAF electrostatic filter in the 7000 and the MERV 11 pleated media filter in the R200. Electrostatic filters have a static charge that attracts particles passing near the media. As particles are attracted and coat the media, the static charge gets covered up and is eventually lost. Electrostatic filters are at their best when brand new and degrade from that point. As you can see, even large particles like sugar and powdered creamer have no problem going right through the HAF filter. New, an HAF filter removes 30% of particles from 3 to 10 microns and 15% of particles 1 to 3 microns. A MERV 11 filter removes 85% of particles of 3 to 10 microns and 65% of particles 1 to 3 microns. This is because the filter captures particles by interception, impaction, and diffusion. This traps particles larger than the passages through the filter media and many of the smaller particles. As a pleated media filter is used, it loads with particles and becomes more efficient. So it works well on the first day and its efficiency improves over time. The 7000 manual has a section about HAF filters that includes guidelines for use, such as replace the HAF filter whenever it has been vacuumed, cleaned, and reused 3 times. Do not wash or apply any liquids to the HAF filter. Do not operate the unit when excessive dust or airborne particles are present. Of course, failure to perform necessary or recommended maintenance will void the warranty. Purchased in a 24-pack, the HAF filter costs over $22 each and can be used 3 times. Purchased in a 12-pack, the MERV 11 filter costs less than $12 and can be vacuumed and reused several times. Over 25 jobs, the cost difference is huge. HAF filters cost about twice as much, last about half as long, and are less than half as efficient. Maybe they should be called half filters.
The other thing that I'd like to point out is the cord design again. So I mentioned that the cord is removable. You can see how it fits in the pocket, nice and neat, and is really has no ability to be compromised whatsoever.
Of course, it becomes detached easily, and in a wet structure, that can be disturbing. If you lose the cord, a standard extension cord won't work, and a new cord is going to cost you about $25.
On this particular unit, the cord is actually attached and actually slides underneath the door. The door having an edge, a very sharp edge, can actually potentially cut through that cord.
The R200 has UL certification. Thousands of units are in the field. This has never been a problem. I wonder how that cord got scuffed up. Maybe with a little bit of help? Make that made-up stuff number 3.
The touchpad on the Phoenix R200 is very basic. Effectively, you have an on-off and job hours. The touchpad on the LG R7000 XLI gives you a significant amount of information, including the inlet-outlet conditions that you need to ensure that drying is progressing appropriately.
When you spend between $300 and $900 for a good thermohygrometer, don't expect an accurate device to be built into the 7000. The only thing worse than no information is bad information.
You take the R200 and you wheel it around, as so, just like anybody would. What you're going to find is that this unit is actually 3 times heavier than the LG R7000 XLI. Why is that important? Well, certainly it's important because getting a dehumidifier in and out of a vehicle can be difficult for a lot of people. But think about this. How about when you take a unit upstairs? Are you going to want a unit that's 3 times heavier, or do you want the lightest unit available?
Wow, where do you even start with this? The R200 weighs 2 pounds less than the 7000. 9 pounds. The 7000 is front heavy. That's why it's harder to tip back and will lurch forward when rolled over small obstacles. When tilted back to a comfortable angle for maneuvering, the weight on the handle of the 7000 is about 3 pounds less than the R200. Definitely not 3 times heavier. Going downstairs, the wheel and skid plate on the 7000 catches on the stair nose. Not so with the R200. Now, when you're lifting a unit into a truck or going upstairs, you're lifting the true weight, not balancing on an axle. Nobody should fall for that 3 times heavier claim. Let's make that made-up stuff number 4.
So I have a statement to make. If you happen to engage in anyone who's either selling or recommending drying equipment to service companies, and they recommend a dehumidifier other than the LG R7000 XLI, they are either misinformed or have a personal agenda that is certainly not in the best interest of the customer.
Wow, I won't even comment on that. Except maybe to say that Phoenix appreciates and respects our restoration distributors and customers. I hope that this has helped to illustrate some of the inaccuracies and made-up stuff in the Dri-Eaz videos. Phoenix has always been the leader in developing new technology and innovations. It took Dri-Eaz 20 years to copy the use of our heat exchanger design. I understand that Dri-Eaz spent over 2 years trying to design a unit that beat the R200, and finally decided to simply copy it. Poorly too, in my opinion. With only a couple of months of production, the jury is still out on the 7000. It may be the best dehumidifier Dri-Eaz has ever made, but it's not a Phoenix.